Now we're ready. You can ask me questions.
Ready?
Welcome back, guys, to episode 22 of the Kind of Nice podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. She is my old high school teacher, but she's now a mental sport performance coach. I've known her for a long time, and she's helped me out with a lot of stuff, so I wanted to get...
What is a long time?
Here.
3 years, 5 years,
No, like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I think I taught you 10
okay,
years.
that's a
high
long
school,
time. That gives clarity. Now I have greater...
A decade.
I've known her longer than I've known you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't hear that too often, actually, because we've known each other a while now.
Yeah, we have. But her name is Ashley Eckermann. Where can people find you? If you have an Instagram page, I know, and then...
I do, but
Go
I'm
ahead
like
and
the
plug
one
yourself.
person that doesn't follow the social media rules. So my Instagram and my Facebook don't match my actual company name.
Oh.
I know. You're not supposed to do that. But maximizethemind.com
Yeah.
is my website. And then that's the name of my company, Maximize the Mind.
Wow.
And Mental Performance Coaching. But then Eckermann Edge is actually my Instagram and Twitter. My
Eckermann.
Facebook's Maximize the Mind. But like I was told the other day that only old people are on Facebook now.
It's a little true.
Yeah. depressing.
It's starting to change, but I still feel like there's a lot of good to be had on Facebook.
It's true.
Old
Yeah.
people make money too.
That's true. That's true.
Well, people make more money most of the time.
They do.
Usually.
But tell the fans a little bit about what you do, your profession, and why you do it, in essence.
So, probably the biggest, I think, conception with sports psychology is people think you have to be crazy to get help, which is so far from the truth, which is why a lot of people don't end up getting help. For the most part, it's helping athletes with high performance and like how they manage high pressure situations, right?
Yeah.
Because most people are not very good at managing emotions because you never really learned how to do that in school, which
Yep.
is, you don't learn life skills, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So probably the biggest things that I see in my office are like performance anxiety, overthinking, coming back from injury, hesitation, like not being aggressive, not being as assertive as they were before something happened or before some coach got onto them or before they played at a higher level, and just kind of negativity, channeling nerves. And negativity doesn't have to be like, I suck. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's a lot of like, let's give sports specific, like don't strike out.
Yeah.
Don't false start, don't mess up, don't fall. Like that's not bad advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except the problem is
That's
it's like the worst thing ever.
focus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, right. Cause your brain remembers the last thing that you say and people forget that. So then you're now strike out.
Wow.
Oh, good luck to you.
Wow. And then the next thing you know, you're in the heat of the moment, and that's what's kind of like resonating in between your ears.
For sure.
Huh. And then just the effect that has on any athlete in their given sport. Huh.
Well, and so the thing for people is they think that sports psychology in general is like positive thinking. So they're like, oh, I already know how to do this stuff, right? No, that's not what I teach because that's garbage and it doesn't work and it's fake.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be like strategically training your brain to rewire itself to make decisions differently. And people don't realize like they have the power to do that. And so they spend so much time like training physically and then they don't stop and look at like the mental aspect. And the mental aspect is like literally what gets you that competitive advantage, what gets you to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys all do the same amount of training. Why are some of your competitors better than the other ones? Because they withstand the pressure, right?
Because I've done a lot of research on this kind of stuff. It's something my uncle's passionate about, so I've been passionate about talking with him, and I've read some books. There's a quote or something you were saying from Mike Tyson. He was asked how much of boxing is mental versus physical. I think he says like 80% mental or something like that. So that I relate to that with ninja as well, because you're right. Like there's a lot of kids and adults even that I know that are super strong. Some are even like probably the strongest
Like
athletes
more
when it comes to
physically
ninja.
capable?
Yeah, but they suck. When it comes to competing, they just every time they can't handle the mental stuff and they end up falling in qualifiers or really early on, even though that there's like John Brown's a good example, I think, of a guy who's like one of the strongest guys.
I love you, John.
But I think mentally he can't like focus up.
Well, and here's the deal. I think it's when it gets tough, people don't like that feeling, right?
Yeah.
So then they quit. And it's not because they're not capable. They quit because I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, you have athletes that are extremely skilled or talented, and then the performance aspect, sometimes they don't even know what is going wrong, like why they're falling. And I think that's when you either have someone in your life say, hey, like reevaluate, or hey, on the best possible news would be to say, hey, let's go see someone who is an expert in this area, because you're not lacking in the physical, abilities or even in your practices, but in the course, like in the actual game time, something's not connecting, and we need to try to figure out what. And so how many, I guess, mental performance coaches like yourself would you say are there, in any given city? Like, is there a mental performance coach on like every corner?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But that's okay. That's more for me. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
I think because for me, it's more a question of, because I know there's a lot of sport, like mental workers and stuff.
Okay.
What's the difference between like a psychologist and what you do in essence?
So I think the biggest thing that keeps people from coming to see like a mental performance coach or, I have a sports psychology practice, right? I mean, that is what I'm specifically trained in, to work with athletes and teach them coping skills and how to manage adversity, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing that a counselor would do or a therapist would do, a psychologist, right? But they're going to deal with different problems or different, I think, levels that people need help in, right? Where for me, it's like, and this is probably part of our society's problem, but it's like, oh, something has to be wrong with you to go get help. Well, you don't have to have anything wrong to go seek out like this mental performance coaching, right? Because to be honest, if you're proactive, you're going to be better, right?
Yeah.
And before you have a problem, because then I'm not repairing and undoing all your negative habits. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching you things to be more competitive, right? And so there are not that many of us. I mean, like I said, I think earlier, there was like 5 or 6 maybe in Houston that do this. And we're the 4th largest city in the world?
Yeah.
With the world,
yeah,
the US.
The world.
Yay, geography. Not my forte. But like, I think the thing is for people is they don't realize that it's out there, because you don't have to be in Houston. I work with people virtually all the time.
Wow.
But I know when I was younger, I wish I had someone. I got burned out and I quit. And I quit because this wasn't like available to the average athlete. I mean, pros have had available, right? Like availability for a long time. And college campuses now all have somebody on staff. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I hear from my athletes are it's very generic, or it's very much like this like team aspect. And so then they feel like it's not specific to them. So it's kind of fake, right? Yeah. And so then they're like, well, I want somebody that knows me, or I want somebody that knows my background.
Individualized. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
wow. Now, where was the draw for this type of, lifestyle practice clinic? Like, did you grow up as an athlete and was like, oh, I see a need, like I need help, or I have friends who struggle in this area and I'd love to do something about that in the future? Like, where did that desire, come from?
I love that you think I have friends. That's so sweet of you.
Dogs.
I was an athlete. I do have dogs.
There you go.
I don't have kids. I don't have time for kids. I work with too many athletes. I'm trying to fix everybody. I was an athlete at a high competitive level. I was a swimmer, and I played lots of different sports, but swimming was the thing I was best at. But I'll tell you where the draw came from. My dad played on the PGA Tour, and my dad suffered with a lot
That's
of
golfing, kid.
Oh yeah,
Rocky's face lit up. He's a big golfer.
And it wasn't he didn't have the talent. Right? Because that's never what it is. Mm-hmm. It's oh my gosh, I have to win. Oh my gosh, I have to make the cut. Oh my gosh, I have to provide for my family. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose a sponsor. Right? Wow. Which I know you guys see the same thing. Yep. It's just a different sport. Mm-hmm. Right? And as a kid, I was always like, how do I help him? I was helpless. I didn't know what to do. And you just, I literally, this can sound super cheese, but I just prayed for him because I was like, I don't know how to help you. And please make the cut. And please let my dad be good. And please let my dad play on Sunday now.
Wow.
And what do? You don't do anything.
Yeah.
And he would tell us, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress. And he would always say he was so much better than what he was actually capable of producing. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, how do you solve that? And he had people that he talked to, but it just, like I said, it wasn't on every corner, right? Like it was super rare. It was only for pro athletes. And so I said, I want to study that thing, that sports psychology thing. I want to learn about it. And that's where it started. So at a young age, I knew I wanted to do this. It just took me a minute to get my own practice. You took this non-linear path.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that story at all. But yeah,
surprise.
Makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about, we met through, what grade was I in when I took your class?
Oh, I love that you think I would remember that.
I don't either. Dude. Let's say it was sophomore. It was in high school pretty much, but I remember she was my speech teacher. So there was kind
Did
of
I have you in speech or teen leadership?
No, it was speech for sure. I didn't take teen leadership.
That was a good class.
Kid was never a teen leader.
In essence, it was a great class because it kind of was connected to what you're doing now, right? It's mental, it's performance stuff. You're stepping up. A lot of people have what would it be called? Not performing anxiety, but when it comes to speech, there's like a specific like term for that. No, like stage fright, I guess, or.
Yeah.
it's one of
So
those.
there's like a statistic, and like who knows how like accurate this is now, but that people are more afraid of like flying and heights and death than. I mean, they're
more afraid of public
They're
speaking.
more afraid of public
yeah.
speaking than gotta
Yeah,
get
I
that
heard
right.
it was
I
like
remember
the
you actually
second
saying
most-
that like in high school. I remember
Oh, because
you,
people would be like,
quoted that.
I don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay, but like, what do you need help with? Or how can I get you up there? Can I do half of it with
Yeah.
you? Can I walk you through it? Can I make everybody close their eyes? Can I turn off the lights? I mean, it was like, I would do
Yeah.
anything for these
Just
kids.
to ease them into it.
And they would
Yeah.
be like, no, I'll just take a 0.
Yeah.
I was like, God, come on. Like, what can we do? But I think people are just so afraid of judgment,
Yeah.
which is also like, honest to God, the root of what I do every day. Because it's really perfectionism. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid I won't be good enough. I'm afraid I'll disappoint someone. But nobody likes to admit that. Like,
Yeah.
we're all afraid of
Well, we
something.
live in a world
all
that
of us.
kind of does
Well, yeah, you live
condemn
in a
that. You
fishbowl
should
now.
be the
Yeah.
you should be the center and the perfect, model of whatever it is that you're aiming for.
Yeah.
If you're able to get people to not care about what other people think, do you think that solves most of like the core problems in that, or are a lot of people more afraid of failing other people and disappointing others, or is it more on average like, oh, I don't want to disappoint myself?
People like to say I don't want to disappoint myself because that's like the right
it's a
answer.
cover
Like,
up,
yes,
yeah.
like people don't want to cheat. They're like, no, nothing's
Fair.
wrong with me. But I think comparisons is really what is like the total thief
We
of
live in a
happiness.
world of comparison.
So
right
how
now.
like for people listening now, right? We have young athletes listening. What's like an actual functional, tangible way to take steps towards not caring what others think in terms of your performance and other things like that, right? What are some things they can implement in their lives to work on that and be proactive?
So it's so specific to what it is that they're comparing to
Yeah.
or what their coaching situation is. But what I tell a lot of like young kids, it doesn't matter what kind of maybe negative environment you're in or what you've had in the past, because the thing that I think most people waste is neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to constantly adapt. It's constantly
Yeah.
rewiring, right? And so you have the ability to change what you focus on or what you talk about, what you identify with, what you feel on a regular basis. But people will constantly say stuff like, well, that's just how I am. Or, well, you don't understand. I just had a bad childhood. Or, well, you don't understand. I have this really terrible coach.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you decide what message you hold on to. You decide what you repeat. And we know that we believe whatever we repeatedly hear. So you get to decide that. And you can't change your environment a lot. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think teaching people how to not give so much attention and so much energy
Yeah.
to the people around them. I mean, that's a really specific thing, but that is something that I do daily.
So like
Wow.
in essence, like affirmations, like making sure the way you talk to yourself is in a positive way, like never putting yourself down, stuff like that.
It's like self-talk.
So self-talk is good. I like that word. I actually hate positive affirmations. And okay, so like that sounds really bad.
Yeah.
But I like using the word productive.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not like trying to correct you, but here's the thing.
You're-
If you
once
say,
is teacher, always
I know,
kids
right?
teacher.
Yeah, that's true. If I say positive, people are like, well, I'm just not a positive person.
yeah,
I
that's
can't
fair.
do that. Right. And then people instantly go, well, I'm just not capable of this. That's why I can't do this. This is why I won't be good at it. And it's like, okay, but you don't have to be fake. You don't have to be positive. Like,
Yeah.
I got this. Cause
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you won't. But
Yeah.
it needs to be more like giving the brain instructions of what you're trying to do or like what you're trying to achieve. So instead of most humans, like, right, this is where this judgment comes from is what am I trying to avoid? What do I want to avoid at all cost? Right. Which is obviously like embarrassment or whatever,
Yeah.
but like it's going to be specific to that sport. But then instead of what you're trying to avoid, talk about how you want to feel, talk about what you're trying to achieve. I never said you're going to feel that way. I never said that you're going to accomplish something, but if I really talk about productive thoughts, and productive thoughts are just what am I trying to gain? So like just simple example. I'm not going to say, I'm so confident if you're not.
Because you might not be.
Because you might not be, right? And then people go, well, I can't say that because I'm not. And then they don't believe it, which that's fair.
Yeah.
But do you deserve to be confident? Oh, you work out every day. Oh, you've put in the time. Oh, you've gotten sleep. Oh, you've got the nutrition down. Oh, you worked on your stretching. I mean, what, right?
Yeah.
You've been doing this for 17
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Oh, you kind of do deserve to be confident.
Yeah.
So like
So having
teaching
like
a different
value,
angle.
like something behind it, rather than just trying to lie to
Like
yourself.
healthy self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
Or like, I think something basic for you guys, don't fall. That's
yeah,
great.
right?
That's great.
Don't
but
fall.
but
Don't
what would
fall.
be the ultimate tight grip? I mean, it doesn't have to be
So
that. But you know what
I
I'm saying?
read,
That's
yeah.
instructions. That's specific to
Yeah,
what
hit
you're
the
trying to do.
buzzer. Finish the course.
in one of the like books I read, it was talking about how the brain doesn't perceive negatives. So when you say don't fall, it doesn't get the don't part. Any negatives that you give it, it's just kind of ignores it. And it's like, oh, fall. I'm not sure if that's right or not.
No, yeah, totally. And the brain holds on to the last word, right?
Yeah.
So it's sitting there repeating fall, fall, fall.
Yeah.
And for a brain, like it needs to be told what to do. It's just like a computer, right? It's like programmed. So it can't sit there and go, don't. It's like it can't turn around quick enough. What is it that you want me to do? It just basically is like agitated and inflamed in your amygdala. It's right in the middle of your brain. It's like your fear receptor. And it's like, wow. What do I do?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't compute what you're actually asking of it. And so that's where that comes from. You're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
100 for you.
This time.
No, I'm pretty sure I got an A in your class. It was pretty easy.
You did.
Well, okay. All right, cool.
I might be wrong about that. We could pull it up someday, but I remember like it was enjoyable. I think your class and Mr. Bean's class, which was like a finance class, were like my two favorite classes because the rest of the classes sucked.
I'll take that compliment because like, why do people come to school? Like to be entertained or be around their friends for lunch or their sport, right? Like nobody comes to learn stuff. I mean, you should, but you don't.
Yeah.
So if you don't catch somebody's attention, then you miss an opportunity to
But it was mostly because
teach.
the stuff we were learning was functional, right? When you're learning
real life stuff.
like stuff that,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, history is helpful, but when you're learning like algebra and stuff like that, and you're not.
But you
gonna
probably
work in
don't care
that
at
field.
16. That's a problem.
I mean, you don't really look that far ahead
did
in
at
life
least.
and remember that what you're learning
You
now
were
is
rare.
what you're using tomorrow.
You were actually intelligent.
Because a lot of kids like enjoyed. So Mr. Bean's class was like a class where he taught us like finance and things that we
Mr.
were actually
Bean?
going to use. Yeah, he's a good
His
kid.
real name.
Like the
It was his real
movies?
name.
Yeah, you taught at the same time as him, yeah? Yeah, so her class was good because it taught you like functional applications to things in life that you're going to use after high school, and his class
Okay.
did too, which is why I enjoyed both of those classes. The other classes are things
You don't
that
even remember the names of the teachers of the other classes, do you?
no, I remember a lot of them. Like
Okay.
Temporelli was a good one. She was one of my favorites as well. But I think, those, like for me, anything that I'm learning ever, if I'm passionate about it, it's so much easier for me to get involved in it. And especially with like Ninja, for instance, when I first started Ninja, I was passionate about it because it was something new and I was learning new things. Now it's become very stale and mundane to me because I've reached a threshold to where there's not much more to learn, and it's all conditioning really. It's just like, get stronger and be able to put in more reps of that and be able to go further, faster. So a lot of my passion for it has died because of that aspect. Like when I pick up a new thing, I've been playing volleyball recently. I'm passionate about that because I'm not great at it, and there's a lot of like potential for me to get better. But with Ninja, there isn't that anymore, really. I mean, I'm not saying I'm
reach
the
the
best
pinnacle.
ninja, but it's just conditioning, right? There's nothing cool. I mean, I could start learning flips and stuff, but that's not actually functional on the course. The
I get
course
that.
stuff like is gotten a little stale to me. So
But that's like not uncommon. Like athletes get burned out and then they come in a lot and they'll say something like, well, I don't know if you can help me with this, but I'm on the verge of quitting. I don't know if I should quit. I feel really bad because I'm really good at something. And this is like what I've done my whole life. And that's like their identity is tied to that. But then they're like, I don't know. And we work a lot on refinding your passion for that sport and finding other ways that it can challenge you.
Can we refine kids' passion right now for Ninja?
I didn't know
Because
it was
season
a
14 is
thing.
coming up in a couple months.
But sometimes it's time to move on. Sometimes
feel
it's
that.
time to
Time to move on, kid?
transition out.
maybe.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
But I
you
mean,
heard it here,
Yeah.
everybody.
I don't tell people what to do, and you got to help people see different angles so then they can make a better decision for themselves.
You just got to
I
find you some
think-
better angles, kid.
Actually, no. Another interesting like aspect has been throughout my journey through the Ninja thing. When I was a kid at first, right? I'm literally called kid. There was
That's his stage name.
the way I mentally went into things. I had like, I was an underdog. I had stuff to prove. Like nobody knew who I was. I was counted out a lot. People were like, this guy's gonna suck. And that was a really fun place for me to be in because I had no downside. It was like, if I suck,
Yeah,
it was
there's no
expected.
pressure.
If I kill it, it's awesome. Now it's been another reason why my passions kind of died out is because that's flipped. There's like huge expectations and there's only downside, right? So that's been, so that in combination of the things with like, there's not much more for me to learn. There's like, I go in the gym, but I'm doing the same thing that I've done for the past 10 years. I'm not doing any new things really. And it does, like one of the reasons it stays sort of fresh is because you can come up with new obstacles, but there's only so much you can do with that. You can't get super crazy with obstacle design. Everything's a function of
Pretty
something
crazy
else.
this years.
I mean, yeah, but
But
it's,
I
in
think
essence,
your
it's the same.
thing is you're competing for other people's expectations of you,
Yeah,
which
that's true.
expectations are always going to lead to disappointment
Yeah.
because you're no longer doing it because you love it. You're doing it to fulfill other people's needs, right? And then like ultimately now you expect something different of yourself. And yeah, that's not fun anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's where I'm at. every
We're
year
having
when
a
I do
session
it,
right now, everybody.
pretty much. But yeah, every year I do it, like I kind of think to myself, like you were just saying, I just do this because I'm good at it.
Wow.
And the passion's been, I mean, in and out. It kind of like, oh, some days I'm like, yeah, this is so much fun. Some days I'm like, been doing this for too long.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I see it in my office every day.
Yeah.
But everybody always thinks they're the only one. They're like,
Yeah.
I know you've never heard this before. And I'm like, oh, yeah, 6 times yesterday.
Wow. It's just like isolation.
Because
like
nobody
thinking-
talks about stuff,
Yeah.
right? Because,
Yeah.
oh, dear God, we can't talk about your mental health. We can't talk about things that are, like taboo. Or we can't talk about things that are feelings because then that makes you human. Like, people don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, they want to see you a certain way and they don't want to know that, like, you feel too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's gonna be super helpful for people to like hear about these certain things. 'Cause I think it's stigmatized a lot of the time, and
For sure.
people are like, yeah. So
Wow.
what in essence is a fact? Because we've talked about this before. Like I've talked to you about this before. But when do you tell an athlete like, hey, it's time to move on, or when do you tell them like, no, I still think there's something here for you? What's the deciding factor most of the time?
Man, that's so hard.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's very unique to each individual athlete. But if there's a common
but
thread,
I will
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
something that I like really, really, it was really important to me. I guess I'll say it like that, is someone will come in and they want the answers, right? And they want to tell you the right answer because humans love to get the right answer, right? And so we want to tell you what we think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And I always have to kind of step back and go, my job isn't to tell you when I think it's time. My job is to tell you, well, have you thought about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this over here? And then they're like, well, I never
Just kinda
really
get
thought
them
about
thinking.
that. And I want to teach you how to problem solve. I don't want to teach you how to vote, which I think is
for
kind of
sure.
a teacher problem in America today. It's like, I want to tell
not
you what
wrong.
you're supposed to do. And it's like, no, like you have this brain, like use that sucker, right? So more like, here's some things I think you haven't thought about. Here's some things that I think are really beneficial to you. Here's some things that I think you'll probably regret based on experience with other people I've worked with.
Yeah, that's a good
But like, I can't tell you that's the right thing. And then I kind of step back and I'll have them do a lot of different exercises so that you get this clarity and you get this insight on like maybe stuff that you hadn't thought about before, because people hate writing crap down. Right? Because,
Yeah.
that's work. But like, sometimes you have to like see it on paper to be like, oh yeah, that's a bigger deal than I thought. So I
I'm
kind
a
of,
visual processor
Oh, no,
more
for
than
sure.
I'm just hearing.
and that's like a thing. It's not like a made up thing. Like the brain sees words on paper and they become more tangible and it goes, okay, now I have control over this. And ultimately that's all like, okay, now I have control over this decision. So I'll say things like, I can't tell you if it's time to move on. I would maybe do this, but that doesn't mean that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they need more pushing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to tell you like what you should do.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I don't think you should. I think helping them make that decision is your job at the end of the day.
Why don't more people get that though? Just saying.
We live in a world with a lot of distractions right now.
Let me tell you what the
whole lot
right
of
thing is to do.
distractions.
Yeah, because that's easier. I mean, you're just like, oh, I pay you, you tell me what to do, I get out of here.
Yeah.
It's unethical.
But then you still don't take responsibility for it, because then if things go wrong and you make the wrong decision, you blame the person that gave you the advice. I think it's,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I
That's
think
so
teaching
true.
someone to take ownership and responsibility of their athletic goals or careers or dreams in life like that, you'll do much better for them doing
Yeah.
that than just trying to be their answer. I mean, what's the quote? Like if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. That's kind of like something that I feel is lost in our culture today. We just try to give the quick answers, the quick fix. when
Because
really-
we're a society of instant gratification.
Yep. Yeah, we are. We talk about that all the time, all the time. But I've got a question. How many years have you been doing what you're doing, owning like a sports psychology practice?
So I've had my practice for 4 years, but I have worked with other partnerships and people that have had practices for several years before that.
Wow.
It's kind of hard to break off on your own. It's kind of scary and start from scratch and hope people follow you.
Wow.
I used to be down in River Oaks and it was like, ideal because it was the center of Houston and people would come find you. But I was like, no, I want to do my own thing. And also traffic sucks and I live in Cypress. So I want to be like not driving all the time. But, and I didn't lose a single person.
Wow.
Everybody followed you because first of all, if you're good at what you do and people truly care and they think that you're invested in them, they want your help. They want your guidance, right?
Yeah.
But before that, while I was teaching and coaching, because I was a high school coach, I was a high school teacher for several years, I think like 13 or 14.
Where did you coach?
What did I coach?
Yeah.
Swimming. You don't remember
Swimming.
that? dude, you suck. After I already told you that that's what I was, a swimmer growing up, but that's cool. I'm glad we were listening. No, I coached swimming and I loved coaching. I actually loved teaching, but it was just not, I felt like there was more to give. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest things for me, and I don't know, this may be tacky, but like,
we're here for it.
I was working my tail off in coming up with like innovative lessons or how to communicate or how to teach real life things. Right. And like the people next door to me were like doing worksheets, and that killed me because I was like, oh, I'm smarter than this. Something's not clicking. Like I know that I'm not maybe utilizing my brain as well as I could.
Yeah.
And so I did like clients on the side. Mm-hmm. I would literally go to swim practice and then I would go teach all day and then I would do clients after school. And P.S. that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want to burn out. So I slowly kind of like transitioned out. It was something I always wanted to do. I just had to find the right time to break off like financially and like be brave.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about like taking that leap of faith. Cause I remember we were talking at the time and you were like, yeah, this is like really scary. I don't know if I'll be like,
it was. Cause I mean like,
stuff.
I talk, and that sounded negative, I guess, about teaching, but I loved what I do. It was just like, I felt like there was just more, I wasn't utilizing everything that I had, you know, like in the think tank. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you have insurance and all the things that I like, you don't want to think like that's what you're working for, but like you have job stability also you had summers off, but like there was things that were like, you know, you didn't also take your work home. Owning my business, I work 24/7.
Yeah.
All the time. That's like draining.
Wow.
And
but rewarding too. Yeah. Like,
sure.
I mean,
no, I'm just kidding. Yes,
sure.
Yes.
Sometimes maybe a little bit.
It is rewarding. And yes, you know that you're the direct reason that you're impacting people.
Yeah.
It's awesome, but you don't get to turn it off. And so that's hard. Yeah. So for me, honestly, there were some things that I was burned out with a little in teaching. And I was like, I have to go now. If you're going to do it, you got to go now.
Yeah.
And, I think looking back, I wish I did it a long time ago, but I also can tell you I am good at what I do because I coached and I was an athlete. And I mean, I still compete, but like I saw both sides.
Yeah.
If you didn't see both sides, there's so many kids that will come in. Kids, adults, doesn't matter, right? Because everybody remembers what their high school coach said to them.
Yeah.
Still. And so they'll come in and they'll say something and then I'll be like, you know what? I know you see it this way, but have you ever thought about maybe this is why he said it? And they're like, I never thought about that. I'm like, I don't know him. I don't know if that's why he said it. It was a pretty asshole thing to say, but what about this? And then all of a sudden it's like, you're flipping the switch on how they see a situation where they thought it was so like personal and not that it was appropriate by any means, but like they see it from a different angle all of a sudden. And I think I can say a lot of that stuff because I was like, yeah, I was that coach.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't say some of the things that kids say to me, but you know, I kind of think I was a pretty good one, but I know what he was like. I know what that pressure is in that school system. I know what it's like to told you have to win. I know what it's like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no,
I think
for sure. It's easier
they don't
for
know
somebody
that.
to trust you if you could tell them that you've been in their shoes, right?
And they go, oh,
you can relate to them better. So it's like the what you're doing right now is almost in a way kind of the culmination of everything that you've done in your life, in your career, up until this leap of faith, starting your own practice. And now you have all of these, these stories and things that ways that you can relate to your clients on a level that, someone who just went straight into owning their own practice and not having quite all of the ins and outs and things that you did prior to that.
1,000%. And do y'all not hate, like, this is one of my pet peeves, people that think they know everything. And then they try to tell you what to do. And then they also kind of like talk down to you at the same time. And you're like, oh, but you don't know. And so like, I think when you have said, well, I can tell you this, or I can tell you this, but like, you're open to like hearing other ideas and not actually saying, well, I know it all because I read it out of a book. And this is the study that I read about. Like, I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I know that says that there, but like, here's from experience.
Yeah.
Like, don't you trust more people that have like been somewhere before they give you advice?
Yep.
You know? I don't know.
A lot more.
Just my 2 cents.
Experiential knowledge trumps just book knowledge.
No, yeah.
Almost
like book smarts.
every time. Yeah. Wow.
That's good.
And when working with athletes, I mean, do you have athletes like I'm thinking about, those that are listening thinking like, oh, well, I've never actually taken the time to sit down and kind of, I think I would benefit from, talking with someone, whether it starts with the parents and then leads to, something more professional, or if it starts with a coach and then leads to something more professional. Like, how long I guess I'm thinking for those who are like, oh yeah, I would love to go see, someone about, my mental health or as an athlete, my goals. Is that a very long time commitment, or does that just change? Like, do you work with an athlete for weeks, months, years? Is it kind of, on a, day-to-day basis as far as like
depend, no?
Well, it does, but actually it's a really good question because it's something I get emailed literally daily.
Wow.
And people are like, well, what's this time commitment, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long does this take? Because, quick, instant gratification culture. I need it tomorrow because I ate a salad tomorrow and I should be thinner by tomorrow, right?
That's how it works.
So it depends on what you have going on, right? Like I have people that like their surgeon sent them to me because they had an ACL tear and they're coming back and they're totally healed physically. Right. But they're not as assertive. They're just not sure. And they're kind of overhead, like compensating in their protection mode because, I don't want to hurt that other knee. And I was out for so long. Right. So like we can take care of that. Usually 4 or 5 sessions probably, right? Because you're kind of sorting through like the memory, what you're holding on to, how to come back, how to return to the athlete you were. But that's like one thing. I should say, obviously, yes, it all depends. But a lot of times people will come to me when it has gotten bad and they wait till things get really bad. And I'm like, oh my God, if you were just proactive, we could have totally solved this quicker. But they'll come when it's like, I'm overthinking. I'm super frustrated. Also, I've been injured. Also, I have a lot of pressure. Oh, and I need a scholarship by next week. Okay, so I ain't a miracle worker. Whoa. But then you're like, kind of like, okay, well, today we're going to talk about the nerves. Okay, and tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about the perfectionism. And then the next day we're going to kind of talk about the injury. And so when you're working on something that's like 3-4 fold, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually super common, then you're looking at 10 to 12 maybe
it's
sessions.
Super common to have multiple.
Yeah, because nobody comes in when they first need it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like anything, right? You don't seek help until it's like, crap.
I'm dying.
Right. You know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of like going to the doctor. It's like, I had to wait until I was about to die. So, and then I have people, like, I don't ever want to be like a long-term thing. Like, I want people to, learn how to problem solve and go do their thing. I don't want to be the person that has to give them answers, right? I mean, we already kind of covered that, but like, I tell them the thing about people is, if we don't have accountability, we don't do shit, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you go learn certain strategies and you go kind of figure out what you want to do, and we kind of get on a better path, right? You build that foundation of what you need to know to take care of yourself better, like, build that mental game, right?
Yeah.
And then like taper off. And then come see me like once a quarter or something like that so you don't forget. So I can teach you things that are current in your situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or so that we kind of check in and you go, oh yeah, I forgot to do those things you taught me a long time ago. Yeah, so we should probably do that again.
Yeah. Wow.
So like sometimes I talk to people that have been with me for 3-4 years. And I also have athletes that are now semi-pro, pro level that started with me in high school. And they're like, well, you know me, so I don't really want to trust someone new.
Relational.
Even though I've got someone on the Tampa Bay race.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Yeah.
But like, I think there's different things that people trust other people for. So it just depends on how much they, I think, feel comfortable with you and what they need.
Wow.
Yeah. So do a lot of people come for you from like word of mouth?
Oh yeah, that's ultimate. I mean, I got people that find me from Google, obviously, but biggest thing is referrals, because then also like you're going to someone that this is an investment, this is a time commitment, right?
Yeah.
And you're also super personal. So
Wow. Super vulnerable.
I mean, ultimately, and people suck at being vulnerable. So when you come and someone's already told you, man, this is what she did for me, or hey, I never thought I could do this, but my doctor made me come, or my mom made me come, or my coach made me come, and here's what I learned. And man, I went in there kicking and screaming, but turns out she was kind of cool. This is kind of interesting. I learned some things. People will come with their guard down versus like finding you on your own and just like guessing. Okay, because here's the other thing. Like we talked about school earlier, so we'll stay with that theme. You could study for a test for like 5 hours, right? And you could fail because your teacher asked you questions that she never reviewed you for. Like she literally never told you half the things that were on there and you're like, what the hell is this? And then you could do kind of like mental skills training and you could learn how to rewire your brain. You could learn on what needs to be focused on. You could learn how to respond and not react. You could learn how to channel your nerves better. And like all of that is scientifically proven because we're not teaching woo-woo crap.
Yeah.
It's scientific methods on how to respond to situations better. So then all of a sudden, that's like guaranteed success. But if you don't trust that, I could tell you that all day long. You don't care. You don't know me.
Yeah.
But if your friend or your teammate or someone you knew that you compete against told you about it, you're like, I want what he has.
Yeah,
How'd he get
for
that?
sure.
Right. And then all of a sudden, like that trust is there. So I'm going to do what you say quicker. So yeah, that's definitely how most people find success. But that's like, how do you guys find coaches? Oh, well, who's helped me? And he did this for him. So I want that dude.
A lot of time it's referrals. Yep. Word of
great.
mouth.
For sure.
Wow.
What's the I was talking with another buddy who said he asked you if you worked with a lot of wrestlers and you said no, but I'm curious to see what's the most common kind of athletes you work with, and maybe it's personal, but is there some certain sports that are more prevalent that you can help and that where mental is more important than physical potentially?
That's a good question. I've worked with like everything under the sun. Like every time I think, oh, I haven't worked. Like, I mean, I've had like ballet dancers and fencers and, things that are not common down here.
Yeah.
Ice skaters, not really common in Houston, obviously. Yeah. But
Although I know a few.
I got some too. But I'll say golf, baseball, gymnastics, swimming, just off the top of my head. Like I work with a ton of different things. It's not specific. I've got volleyball players, I got tennis players, I got basketball players. Doesn't matter, right?
Got a couple ninjas now.
But like those sports, if you guys think about it, like there's too much damn downtime. Like there's too much think time, right? Like when are you going up to bat again? When are you walking to the next hole? So like you're doing rotations, or you have literally 2 hours before you swim your next event. So those people, you've got a lot of think time. You got to figure out how to manage that think time.
Yeah.
In football, and I do have several football
It's
players because of
fast-paced
injuries.
and nonstop.
Yeah, you don't think time. You just do it.
Wow, it's more reactive. Okay.
Right?
I never thought about that. That's a really good point. The more downtime you have,
So
the
I
more you
have
gotta be
more
on
of
it.
those, but that doesn't mean that like that's the only sport that needs it.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean?
yeah. It's probably just
That's
pops
so-
up to the surface like way quicker for them because they're like, I'm thinking a lot.
And then here's the deal, like it snowballs. So like if someone's worked with me and they know so-and-so who knows so-and-so who knows so-and-so, then those are the people that are going to come in because, whatever. And I coach swimming for years. So I know a lot of coaches that will refer people to me too.
Yeah.
Wow, I'd never really thought about that before. Like considering or taking stock of the sport that you play, how much downtime there is, like in any active like competition. That's
You guys
wild.
got downtime too though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have
Yeah.
downtime till you don't. Like once you're like
Yeah.
actually in performance mode, like there is no downtime.
Yeah, we got like 3 minutes on a course, and it's,
Actually,
make
that's
it or
not
break
true
it.
though, because on stage 3 specifically,
When you go to Vegas,
you have a
it's-
lot of downtime. Other than stage 1 and 2, it's timed, so you have a limit, so you're just going. But stage 3, there kind of isn't a time limit. You're given like a certain amount of rest between each obstacle. Mm-hmm. And I remember running that one. It felt different than any other course because you finish an obstacle and then you're on this tiny little platform surrounded by
So
water.
small.
And then you're just like, okay, I got this amount of time to rest, and then you're
Yeah.
sitting there thinking, and then you're
But,
like,
but it's not rest. It becomes overthink time.
And then you got a guy on the sideline and be like, okay, 15 seconds, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
5 seconds, you gotta go. And you're like, okay. And then you're like panicked by the time you have to continue on that course that you're on. But I
Yeah.
never really thought about that concept of like, what do you do with the downtime in your sport? Like, how do you utilize that time? How do you, or maximize that time? And wow.
plug to your brand, Maximize. So-
Maximize. Oh, there we go. How do you
But
maximize
actually-
the mind?
Oh.
You probably know the answer to this.
Try
This
me.
guy like yawns a bajillion times anytime he's running a course. Like
I
he
yawn
just,
a
and I'm
lot.
sure there's something to do with mental with that, but because there's other athletes
It
that
actually
do that.
relaxes the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Ooh, you heard it here, everybody. Relaxes the body. And for me,
But if you weren't doing it on purpose, were you really utilizing it the right way? I'm just kidding. No, so yawning, it actually is a diversion for the brain, relaxes the body, because ultimately you're trying to get more oxygen intake.
Yeah.
But fake smile too, super
He does
powerful.
that too.
I smile too
So-
all the time.
so people,
Praise
when I
God,
tell
got
them
this
that,
stuff down.
They're like, that's cheese. I'm like, okay, hold on. You need to know the science behind it. Because I truly believe if you know the science behind something, you're going to manipulate it. You're going to use it, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So fake smile, here we go. It changes the endorphin production, right? We all know that. But here's what happens.
Yeah, we all knew that.
I knew that.
Your blood pressure is lowered. Really? Okay, so blood pressure is lowered.
Guys, this
My heart
explains
doesn't have to
everything.
beat as fast because the blood flows more efficiently through my body. So then your cortisol is lowered, which that's your stress hormone. Okay, so now my body can relax. It's not like instantly tensing up more. Then your pain tolerance goes up. Well, that happens to be a big deal.
Wow.
And then your Endurance actually increases.
Well,
From a fake smile.
I feel like I could have told you all these things, kid, but you wouldn't have understood it coming from me.
You 100% believe you could have told me all these things.
No.
Okay.
I read it on the internet. It must be true.
Wow, that's wild.
know, right?
That's
And
incredible.
people, it's not like people won't do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
People don't know the research behind it. Because
Yeah.
it's just, I think, this negative stigma tied to it, right? Like
Yeah.
something's wrong with me. But it's like when you know some of this stuff, you're like, damn, well, that's kind of cool.
yeah,
I didn't
no,
realize that.
really.
You know?
Wow.
For sure.
All right. So then, I mean, on that note too, what else? I think we got a couple other really cool questions. Like you're an athlete as well too. Like I don't think we touched on that, but in addition to running your own practice and doing all these other things, seeing clients day in and day out and affecting so many lives, you still make the time to do the things that you love when it comes to the realm of athletics. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I mean, we were talking beforehand before we started the podcast, and Kid and I might go run. What is it, Ironmans that you run?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. We'll not be doing that anytime soon.
How many of you guys would like to see Kid and I, run an Ironman?
Yeah, they're not easy.
Real quick, what is it like a full Ironman?
Okay, so full Ironman is you swim 2.4 miles.
Don't even think I could do that right now.
Then you bike 112.
Oh
I
my!
could maybe do that.
Oh, yeah, you think that. And then you run a marathon, so 26.2.
Disgusting.
Oh, all like back to back to back.
Well, yeah, you don't stop
You
eating
think
lunch,
you, like,
dude.
stop? Oh, wait.
Wait, when do you eat though? How long does that
You got
typically
little gel
take?
packets.
Yeah, you got nasty gel packets
Yeah.
and like carb drinks and
Have
like
you done one before? Like a full?
I've done 5.
Oh my god.
Not one.
No.
She's done one 5 times.
And I do one in 3 weeks. So I'll do Ironman Texas in 3
Wow.
weeks.
Where's that at?
In the Woodlands.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So yeah, you guys should come check it
I'm
out.
actually
Maybe
down.
they'll.
If you remind me, I'll come. I'm
you
not
in.
gonna, no, there's no way.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, no, it's a huge time commitment. But like I was telling you earlier, like if you stop competing, you forget what people go through. And if you forget what people go through, I just don't think you can do as good of a job as connecting or relating with them.
Yeah.
And then it's just, it goes back to trust, right? Like other than that, you're just telling me what to do instead of, hey, I know exactly how you feel. And oh, you're describing something to me. And a lot of athletes can't put stuff into words. Like they can't verbalize it because they've never really talked about some of that stuff before.
Yeah.
And then they'll be talking about something. I'm like, oh, do you mean this, this, and this? And they're like, how do you know? And I'm like, oh, well, because I felt that way last week.
yeah, you can
Yeah, that's a
relate.
good
And
point.
then you don't forget. And I think like, like parents that like when they have kids are like, I'm never going to forget what it was like to be in high school, but they do. So that was kind of like my mission until I'm like, can't do this anymore. Like
Yeah.
injury wise, I want to run, I want to do triathlons, and I want to torture my body so I don't forget what it's like.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
chose like the most painful thing though.
That's
Because you
really
can't
true.
do anything mediocre. You kind of have to be
yeah,
badass if
that's
you're going to
fair.
work with high level athletes.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's a fair statement to make. And
Oh, you
very
do
true.
like 5Ks? Like I'm not going to 5K like 5K, but that's not really like
Oh, you do yoga? That's
also
awesome.
yoga.
Like,
People try to get me to do yoga all the time.
yoga's
'cause they're like,
hard.
it is hard.
Yoga's really hard.
People are like, you're not flexible enough. Your hips get so tight, like on a bike. So they're like, you have to do that. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, you're sitting like still for an hour. That's really not exciting for me. And you don't really move. No.
So do you get excitement out of training and competing for the Ironmans?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Even though it's grueling and intensive?
We got to tell you, I had fun out there. I just said I get excited.
Okay. I guess there's a difference between being excited for
I
the
like
event and
the energy.
Okay.
Because the people out there
Yeah.
are straight up like accomplishing something that they maybe never thought they could do. And it's just so like people come together and they're so supportive.
Yeah.
Like everybody in our society
Yeah.
right now hates each other. And everything's like,
very polarized.
and so when you come to something like that, people are just trying to do everything they can to help somebody else finish. And there's just, dang, it's cool.
Yeah. Do you have like a group of people that you train with? Do you do most of your training by yourself? Like,
Oh yeah, I
what is-
train with like different clubs and stuff like that.
Okay,
Because if you
okay.
did that by
have
yourself,
to.
you would
There's
just
no
we
way.
mentioned
Yeah.
accountability
There's no way.
earlier, and it was like having people in your life that push you to go the extra mile or
sure.
run the distance, you know?
And to be
Okay.
fair, do I train what I should? No way, because I work all the time,
Mm.
and my practice does come first, and I don't love that all the
Keeping things in
time.
priority though.
But yeah, but like there's days, but like if you're like, oh, I can't fit this workout in, and then you don't relieve your own stress, you can't be good for other people.
Yeah. for
So
sure.
like I don't do probably the intensity maybe that I should and keep it up, but like man, I can't miss it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's still hitting the numbers as far as like the volume. And
For me, that's so much easier to hit when I have like a training partner and accountability buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 100. Because if I'm by myself, most of the time I'm just like thinking about like, it's just me. If I miss this workout, it's whatever.
Nobody knows.
If there's another guy texting me like, hey bro, where you at? I'm like 15 minutes away. Then I hop in the car and go get it done. Right. So that's definitely been like one of my hacks is like making sure I have like a solid training buddy.
And it makes it fun.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It does.
Fun.
And I mean, to me, training is therapy. So I have to do it regardless of if it's with
1000%.
anybody else or not. Like if I don't have that outlet each day, I lay in bed, one, not half as tired as I should be because I didn't get any sort of like physical.
earn it.
Exactly.
I didn't earn it.
So yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Finding, having the drive, recognizing the benefits of it being like therapeutic, and then having a group of people that you can run life together with, like, and
For
be
sure.
accountable with. That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
totally flip the script on y'all, and this
Do
was
it.
super random. Sorry,
Please.
I just have to. So I think one of the biggest problems with people right now is that we had all these cancellations. We
Yep.
literally canceled fun and anything
Canceled
active,
fun, true. I
think we
right?
still are in a lot of
people,
ways.
No, I'm pretty sure we still are, but like people are like they were isolated, right? And then they didn't have the things that they were looking forward to or that they were training for. Like you didn't get that fulfillment of the things you're working for.
Mm-hmm.
So I am undertrained going into this event this time. I'm not always, but this one I am. But I was like, I don't care. It was been canceled 3 times. I just have to go out there. I have to go
Yeah.
do it. I don't care. I want to be around people. I just want to race. I want the competition, right? So what I'm curious about for you guys is when like stuff got canceled or pushed back, or you weren't like competing in front of like live audiences and the stuff that y'all were used to. Didn't that totally change? Like you said, working out as your outlet. So I've seen so many people in my office that have suffered from just frustration and I think anxiety in general because they didn't have that outlet and that like got taken away from them.
Yeah.
Like that's so unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Did y'all like notice a
Yeah, no,
difference?
even
Like people act
last
like
year-
you shouldn't be different, but
Yep.
Yeah.
No, last year it was the day of the very first qualifier that was supposed to be filmed in LA. I was about to jump in my car, drive to the airport to fly there. Thankfully, I wasn't competing in that first round of qualifiers, but I was going to go and watch and just cheer on all my friends. That was the very first day. Was it Friday, March 13th, when the shutdown in LA happened? All of California was shut down. And then they said, hey, we're postponing the season of Ninja Warrior indefinitely. And it wasn't until like 4 or 5 months later where we finally got the phone call, said, hey, we're going to have an expedited season. It's going to be here at this time in this place, and we hope you can make it. But during that whole time frame in between, where it was just limbo, shutdowns, everything's, getting canceled, nothing's happening. We think the end of the world is happening. And of course, all the stressors that come with that. For myself and, a lot of the Houston squad that I train with, we were like, okay, well, regardless, we're going to continue training. Of course, we'll use, wisdom and precautions, but we're going to continue doing what we love. We're not going to stop our life. And so during that whole season that we were waiting to see if we were going to have, the season of Ninja Warrior get filmed, we continued training. And in a year that everyone was kind of confused and, a lot of people came into that competition undertrained and hadn't done much and had our COVID bods. I came in and was able to win last season because I never took my eyes off the prize, never took my eyes off my goals. And in a year where financially most of my money comes in through events and competitions, I was able to make more than I'd ever made because I never lost track of the goal.
But you were rare because most
True.
people, if they don't have that timeline or they don't have that, well, this is when I compete or this is when I have to be ready by, they can't sustain that motivation, which is a lot of like some of this stuff, right? Like internal motivation and learning how to work on that.
Yeah.
But I commend you because
thanks.
that's hard for people.
Yeah. Yes, it is. But it's worth it. It works out really well when you got that.
Legit.
Yeah. For me, it's a little opposite. Because I just like being an athlete. I don't like training specifically for Ninja year round. Like I actually have to take a break after the season. I go to France for like 2-3 months and I
Yeah, you
don't
just got
touch.
back from like 3 months in
Yeah,
France.
I don't touch Ninja like while I'm there. Well, I also like destroyed my shoulder, so like I couldn't if I wanted to, right?
Not
But-
with Ninja though. The Ninja didn't destroy your shoulder.
No. But I just like being an athlete. Like even if I didn't have something to train for, I still like go and run. Like I'll run like a total of, I don't know, like 12 miles like a week.
You do all kinds of athletic
like biking
things.
and doing things like that. Cause like he said, like it's more therapeutic, but also I think humans are made to like movement and you're not meant to like just sit down at 9 to 5, go home and then watch
Well, we
TV.
should.
Yeah.
many people fail at that, but
Yeah. No, you just feel better though when you're like
You
an
don't.
athlete.
Yeah,
Yep.
people don't realize that though.
I also like enjoy being able to like do athletic, go into like anything and just be like an athlete in any sport, right? So if I'm like picking something up new, like I can jump really high, I can run really fast, so I'm able to pick anything up as I want to. So just being the overall best athlete, not specifically in the Ninja, but that I can be, is like been one of my goals in life. And essentially. But yeah, it's different because he's more or less like he wants to be like the best ninja I think that he can be, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I've got some pretty lofty goals with ninja. So
Yeah.
But everybody's different.
Yeah,
It's
for
true.
sure.
What I mean, and you got to find what drives you. I think a lot of people are looking for, well, what's again the right answer?
yeah. And
it's
people
yours.
don't even have
Yeah, you gotta
any
figure out what you
motivation.
want.
So some people just need to find the motivation in whatever, sport or goal that they have. So now, okay, I got like 2 more questions on my end. But we see, the goal is always success and moving forward or forward progression as athletes. But do you ever see athletes kind of over time go back to their older destructive habits or mindsets? And what are your thoughts on, things that might cause that, just the distractions of the world or, whatever that might be? And what does the conversation look like with an athlete that is kind of reverting back and, they've overcome some things, but now they're kind of stale or stagnant or worse, reverting?
Sure. Yeah, it happens all the time. Because, a lot of times when people come to me, I'm like, yeah, you had 17 years of bad habits. We've only been working on this for 6 months. What'd you think was going to happen? Because you're really trying to create totally different lifestyle and things that you're wanting to do on automatic pilot, right? Like you can think about what you should change and what you should do, but until you do that, like over and over and over again, because repetition is the mother of all learning, right? Until you do that, it's not going to be consistent.
Repetition is the mother of all learning.
Oh, I don't think I made that up. I felt like I read that out of a book, but
I feel like I've heard that before, but it's so true. It's so true.
Right? But most people don't like to do that because I don't want to put in the time because it's work, right? But if you do that, that's kind of my go-to on, well, how long have you really been doing this? What's reasonable? Let's tap in maybe back to the basics and let's learn some different strategies because we kind of need to maybe spark your creativity. You're bored of some of the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a more like recent question. I bought like a chest freezer and I'm doing ice baths. Do you do those? I mean,
I do.
Iron Mans?
They
I'm
suck.
like, yeah, they suck.
I
Right?
love them. Oh, I love them. I feel
He's
like
a
the more you
psychopath.
do,
Weirdo, are you serious? They're hell.
we've got one. I was just out in Willis, Texas. I got some friends. They have a 36-degree cold plunge in
I
their
like
property.
the cryo things, right?
Yeah, it's
and
less
I mean,
painful.
It's too easy.
Less
That's
painful.
baby stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need to submerge yourself.
I mean,
in
I've done those, but
oh my god,
it's
there's
a lot
nothing
of
like
hurt.
Yeah. It's just my hand. For me, it's my hands. Everything else feels great, but my hands are like super painful. It sucks.
But you've had jacked up hands for a while.
Yeah, it's true.
That was the wrong way to say that, but he totally knows what I meant.
Yeah. But no, but I get in it more for like because physically, like it helps a little bit, but I think like mentally is what I really enjoy is like just getting in it and like just feeling like that it sucks, but like just being okay with that and kind of surrendering to like the pain. Which sounds a little
Surrender
morbid
to
or
the
weird,
pain.
but no, legit. Like when I get in there, like there's almost something peaceful in like being in the cold water and like not wanting to be in it, but forcing yourself to like relax and be as chill as you can be in it, right?
Well, yeah, but because I think a lot of that is because people run 100 miles per hour, right? Like we're always doing.
Yeah.
And when you stop for something,
Sometimes it's not even productive.
Well,
You're just
no.
doing.
and so like people don't do that for themselves enough. So I think that's cool. I think it's good, and I think it's way underutilized probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, beneficial for the goals that we have as athletes. That's for sure.
When do people not totally underestimate recovery?
Oh,
Like that is
yeah.
like
Oh,
yeah.
the biggest thing I see. I'm like, you have to do this. It's non-negotiable. No, but then I didn't work out that day. I'm like, but like your muscles grow when they're not being stretched.
Yeah.
And
Side
most
note.
of the time, people wait till they have an injury before they're
yes.
forced into PT, physical therapy.
Yeah.
Then they realize, oh, that was really beneficial. I feel, better. But you're saying in the same way that, it's better to address, whatever, anxiety or issues that you have with people in your life, having, counsel. The sooner and the earlier, the better off you're going to be. It's the same way physically. The sooner and the earlier that you add, specific and intentional recovery and rehab, the better off you're going to be in the long run, especially if you want to be, competing in your sport at a high performance for a long period of time.
Yeah, because I think anything can't be extra, because if it's extra, it's like it's not something you want to do. It has to be part of your process, and then it's something that you're incorporating on purpose. Like you said, intentional. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
And then I guess, last thing, because I don't want to take up too much more time, but I'm loving this. This is great. Thank you so much for your time. If you could give like a message to any or all the athletes or just people that are watching or listening to this podcast, like what would you say to them? Whether it's like, your favorite quote or piece of advice that you normally just give clients, like what would you want them to hear? If anything.
Yeah, it's such a good one. Okay, let me see. Favorite quote. God, I got so many. I read all the time. I'm a nerdy athlete. I love to read because, hey.
Do you read though, or do you like do Audible?
I do both because if I'm driving to like an event or something, whatever. Fair. But I do love reading because I don't want to give you stale research.
Yep,
I want to make sure like it's current. I don't want to give you crap. But so one of my favorite quotes, and I can't even tell you where I got it from, but just be careful what you say to yourself because you're always listening.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow.
Because it's
say that
so
one more time.
true.
Say that one more time. One more time.
Be careful what you say to yourself because you're always listening.
Wow. That's good.
Because usually we're our own worst critics, right?
Yeah, all the time.
And even if somebody said something to you and you're just like, oh no, they ruined my life. Well, it's because you kept repeating it. It's because you chose to keep reinforcing it.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what they called you. Did you answer to it?
Mm-hmm.
Yo. That's one of my favorite ones. I tell myself that all the time. Like, well, okay, we get called name. I mean, we live in a name calling culture, but not going to answer to things. And whatever kid calls me, I've been called worse, but I didn't answer to it. So,
it's a good one for sure.
Yeah. Be careful what you say to yourself because you're always listening.
Oh, I got another one. Hold on. I got another one. I can't do one. I feel like there's this like I'm an overachiever. Okay, so I like this one. Discontent. I'm gonna probably butcher it, but it's like this is the short version. Discontent is the first necessity of progress.
Oh yeah.
Discontent.
Because until you're frustrated, until you're like, enough is enough, like I'm not doing this anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not gonna really strive for something different. You're gonna live in your comfort zone, right? Like, so it's like huge to be like, because I think so many people get so like, well, I can't do anything about this, or I've been here so long, or I've been hurt, or I'm just constantly making the same mistakes or whatever. But like until you're pissed, you're not gonna really change.
No, 100%.
Wow.
That's one of the things I like. I read more and more books about this stuff. One of the conversations I have with some of like the people I train with and stuff is I think there's certain people in life that have to touch the stove to like know that it's hot type thing. Ooh. So for me, I associate with that because I don't learn lessons. I can learn from other people, but I don't truly learn lessons until I've kind of touched the stove and it's been hot and I've burned myself. Like you can tell me that this is going to hurt me, but in essence, I can like kind of remember that. But if it actually hurt me, I'm going to remember that way more than if I like didn't.
Yeah, you have to experience it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's two ways to learn in life:
so
from your mistakes or from mine.
Yeah. But I think I like that quote. But I think there's something to be said about lessons that you learned on your own versus like you can avoid a lot of like BS and stuff in your life from not making really stupid mistakes. But like some of the most impactful lessons that I've learned in my life are lessons that I've caused myself to go through. Right. And if somebody would have told me that story, I think I would have forgotten about it like a week later. But since I went through it, there's no way I'm forgetting it, right?
Yeah, because your brain's going to store all the memories. It doesn't always store all the
for sure.
Part of your story, part of your life.
Do you have to go? Because if you have to go, we can finish up.
I think I gotta get. Yeah, I got a jet.
No worries. I wanted to go over like some stuff like the flow zone. If you got to go, we can wrap up. But if you got a little bit of time. We'll take a little break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Daniel had to go, but we're gonna wrap up. We're actually gonna bring in Rocky. He's behind the camera, so you get to meet him a little bit. And we're gonna keep talking to Ashley about some stuff that you guys could benefit from. I don't really know where we left off, but I want to talk about some more very specific not sport psychology, but like just sport things that help people understand. So one of the things that I had to learn was the flow zone. Right? It's the whole thing about you have at the bottom of the chart, and you guys can look this up or we might put it on the screen. But in essence, and if I mess this up at any point, correct me or come in. But what I understand about it is in sport, right, you have your ability at the bottom, and then you have the difficulty of a task. And when you're going to be in your best like performance, you're going to have the most fun is when you're like kind of right in between both of those things. If the task is too easy, then you kind of don't care. And that's why a really good basketball team can lose to a really bad basketball team because they just don't care and they're like, whatever. But then you have, if the task is too hard, then you kind of get too shaky. You don't think you have the ability to do it. And then you do even worse than you would have done than if you kind of didn't care. So you can talk a little bit about that and explain that in more detail or how people can utilize that knowledge. So
like what you're talking about is peak performance zone. And there's this like, if it doesn't matter enough, I don't care. And then if I'm obviously overly nervous, it's my body's tense and tight and I can't get it to relax and perform.
Yeah.
And I I think a lot of people don't realize that they can manipulate that more than they can.
Really?
And you obviously have a ton of control over that, but you have to learn how to do it. Everything you described is absolutely right. I don't talk about a lot of that stuff with clients because I find that they get really, like it's super academic and super, not like above their head, like they couldn't understand it, but more like, I think people feel like you're talking down to them, or people feel like, okay, you're explaining something to me like a student instead of connecting to me like you're one of me almost. So I really, really try to be like, okay, here's how you're feeling and here's why you're feeling this. And then here's an exercise for you to do to handle this. Yeah. I try to not label a lot of stuff. I mean, everything you said is correct. It's just because I think people get
overloaded, overwhelmed.
Yes, totally overloaded. Yeah. And then they start overthinking, well, what if I'm doing this? What if I'm doing this? But you breathe every day. Let's just talk about how you're breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just got to learn how to manage that a little bit better. And I try not to get super... I don't know how else to call it, like academic-y is what I'm calling it, which is totally not a word.
Because for me, I'm just passionate about stuff like this. So that's why I read books about it and I learn about it. But can it be counterproductive for people to learn all this stuff? Because then they'll start overthinking and they'll be like, I'm not in the right flow zone. And they're thinking about that instead of what they actually should be thinking about.
I've seen both. I've seen people benefit because they like actually invest in it and they care. And they're like, hey, I want to know more about this because now the more I know, the more that I want to do something with it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I do see people sometimes like just making it like it's like a project at school and they have to get credit for it and they have to do it the right way. And I can't do it the wrong way. Oh no. Like it's your life, dude. There's no right way.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. Like you gotta do it the way that works for you. So I think it just depends.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, understanding something, once I understand something and I can implement it in my life, it's like the easiest way for me to remember it.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. Like on that, I don't teach, and this is just super random, but like I teach something called accountability questions. I teach like centering. I teach rhythmic breathing. I'll teach eidetic imagery. Like there's just different things, right? But I'm never going to say like, here's an exercise. I need you to do this. I'm going to tell you what's happening in your brain and why it's happening and why I'm giving it to you. Because I don't think if you explain the science behind it or if you don't give the justification, I don't have anything tied, right? Like I'm not invested. I don't want to do it because I'm like, okay, she's just telling me to do this thing.
Yeah.
I think if you understand why, you're going to do it.
Yeah. No, I think
because it's just like a coach giving you like, hey, do 15 burpees. No.
For what?
Oh, but what are burpees going to do for your shoulder strength and your flexibility and your reaction time? Okay, I'll do your burpees.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Thought about in terms of coaching, because so throughout my journey of being an athlete, right? Because I started when I was very young. I was going to Iron Sports, a gym where I've trained at when I was in your class. Actually, I was like super young.
And everyone thought that was so cool because it was before it got big and people like wanted to talk to you about it all the time. It was cool.
It was really, that's one of the reasons I loved it so much is because nobody else did it.
That's right.
I was like, this is great. And another reason I liked it is because I thought at first actually that I didn't like team sports. But now one of the aspects that I feel like Ninja is missing is a team sport. Now that I'm playing volleyball, now that I've felt a connection with teammates where like you make a play that couldn't have been done without each other, there's something there that's like super gratifying that I can never find in Ninja, right? Just like a bond you get with someone that is like, I've really come to like that. And that's why I've been playing a lot of volleyball. I've never found that in Ninja.
So it's so funny you say that because I was actually watching the other night and I mean, I don't know how like delayed it is when they're showing it to real people.
Yeah.
But there was so many guys that were like standing, cheering on whoever was going. And, you know, everybody wears like other people's shirts to support them or whatever. But I was sitting there thinking, this is such an individual thing. And why do these guys care if this guy does well? Because it's like really against him, you know, but yet like y'all did such a good job, and not like a y'all per se, but like everybody else is really like coming around and like rallying for them. And I was like, you know, that's got to be like so encouraging and such a like, okay, now I really want to do well and not feel like you're out there alone.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I felt like there was a little bit of team aspect.
There is. Yeah.
But not really, but kind of,
it's not a team aspect, but it's more of like we're all in this together and we're supporting each other. Like we're going through the same thing, even though it might be in individual lanes. It's the same journey in essence. And that's one thing about Ninja, that it could be a lot worse. People could be more competitive and be like, I hope this guy falls. And sometimes there is that. I'm not going to say that there isn't.
Yeah, they just want to show that on camera.
Yeah, but most of the time it's people being very supportive. And that's one thing I've always loved about it is the community and the people in it. It's always been really great.
People love the underdog too, man.
Yeah.
Like people, like America, like just loves that.
Yeah. No, I loved being the other dog for the time that I was. It was really great.
And then when that's gone, that's when the pressure comes and people come see me.
Yeah, right. I feel that. Dang, I had another question relating to that. But in terms of ninja, I think I was going back to like me training so young. When I was younger, I had like this really, and everybody at the gym kind of did, where we overtrained way too much and we were hurting ourselves, and we would almost panic train to be like, oh, like I haven't trained like in like a day or 2 days. I've taken a day off, and people will go in the gym and train for 4 hours. And a lot of like Daniel kind of still has that mentality sometimes. Like we'll let our egos get in the way and we'll go way too hard and like hurt ourselves or damage ourselves to a point that it's like we're not going to build back up to be stronger. Is there, when it comes to mentality for training, not in terms of competition, right? Because that's honestly, I think that's like the competition aspect, mental aspect for me is really important because that's honestly where you get results. But I think there's a whole like iceberg underneath of motivation for training, motivation for going to the gym and putting in the reps and putting in like the days. I've heard like the days where you don't want to do it the most or like the most important, certain things like that, right? Of pushing yourself. What would you say to kind of, what are some techniques you can use to be in the right headspace when it comes to training for a certain thing and not in terms of performance, but in terms of like preparation?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the techniques are going to be so specific to what you are, which is such a generic answer. And I hate saying that, but like, it's so specific to why you aren't motivated or what's the distraction for you or what is the reason that you are overtraining or undertraining, right?
Yeah.
I think the key thing is like not making a decision based on feeling.
Okay.
So like most people are like, I want to feel ready. I want to feel motivated. What BS? Like you're not going to always feel like getting up at 5 a.m. Like who does, right? Like, and you're not going to always feel like going because you're doing something hard. And especially at y'all's level, like you're having to do something harder and harder because you've already achieved like the success, right? Like you already said earlier. So it's like, you can't wait to feel ready. And then the people that are coming back, like, I don't know if it's like from injury or something like that. And they're like, well, okay, hold on. I'm just going to work myself up. Hold on. I'm just going to get ready. I'm like, yeah, you're never going to get that feeling that whatever you're trying to go for, like that's not a thing. It's a made up human term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I think action.
Do you think you're always, do you think it's better? Cause I agree with you. I think in terms of readiness, like you have to be confident in what you've done, but I'd be afraid if I got to somewhere and I thought that I didn't have that feeling of like, maybe I'm not ready. Right. Cause that kind of tells me that I still care. If I like got there and I felt like I was already ready and I was going to win.
Okay. So I'll tell you this, people, when they're stressed, they focus on what they lack. Yeah. Right. And so they're constantly thinking like, well, I wish I did this and I wish I did that because it's just human nature. Yeah. And you have to kind of step back and go, oh, I know that's normal. And if I keep repeating that, then you're telling the brain, this is probably a dangerous situation. This is probably bad. I probably shouldn't be in here. And you're literally signaling that you have no control.
So focusing on your strength in those situations.
It has to be strengths or the prep work that I did. And I don't care if you did enough or not, like it's done now.
Yeah. You might as well just accept it.
So it's gotta be this like, well, here's why I'm good, or here's what I did to prepare. And like literally lining out the stuff you did. And I'm not telling you there's not weaknesses. I'm not telling you that you're not underprepared.
Yeah, there's just no point in focusing on that.
But at that point, you're signaling to your brain, you don't have control of the situation. And so it's going to actually produce more adrenaline and then work against you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So like that's not like you can do any more physical training. You've probably heard the like cliche phrase, like trust your talent, trust your training. Like that's a thing. And you have to kind of learn how to do that. And that, takes some work and stuff. But like that is how you get to the point where you're not going in somewhere going, I haven't done enough. Because who's really ever done enough?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, right? There's always going to be someone better than you. There's always someone who did more. There's always someone who did less too. I promise you. Do you have
any specific questions or anything?
Yeah, I do actually. So say you're prepared. You've trusted the process. You've been consistent with your workout. You get up to the day of a competition or the day of an event, day of the game, right before something happens. Adversity comes, anything, life happens, and how do you step onto the field and let that go for 30 minutes, for the time that you're supposed to be there for, and focus on everything you're supposed to focus on? What are the mental strategies?
Like a traumatic life event happens, but you have to compete the next day type thing.
Yeah, it could be, well, not even to be traumatic. Life happens. We're all going through.
True.
This is our first time.
No, you get a crappy phone call, right? Or something like that. So people struggle with this because they're like, well, I don't want to prepare for that because I don't want that to happen. I don't want to concentrate on what I don't want to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's like a fine line. You want to prep for what you want to happen. Obviously, you want to kind of script out what it's going to look like so that you're ready and you're not second guessing and you're not hesitating and you've got this plan. But at the same part, the way fear happens in the brain is fear comes from the unknown. Okay. So like the unknown is, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what could go wrong. I don't know the future. Right. And so when something goes wrong, right, adversity at any level, you're sitting there going, I wasn't prepared for this. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. And it's not that it's always, I don't know what to do. It's just you think you don't know what to do. Right. And so if you kind of create a plan ahead of time, and this is hard for people because they're like, but I don't want to think about that. I'm like, okay, but what if that's a thing? Right. And so you come up with maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 kind of potential triggers or potential things that could go wrong or potential things that piss you off or upset you or like distract you. Like, what's your thing, right? It's going to depend. And then it could be, I mean, just for quick examples, like a coach yelling at you, someone giving you bad news, your flight's delayed, like, right? Like things that are going to literally happen. And it's not saying you want it, but you're coming up with what you're going to do. And it could be your body language. It could be some exercise you're going to do. It could be what you're going to say to yourself. But if you have this plan in place, then the brain goes, okay, well, I just eliminated the unknown. Okay, well, we know what we're going to do. And the irony of the whole entire thing and all the research that's been done shows that it's actually less likely to happen because your brain doesn't fear it now. It's not like, well, what if this goes wrong? It goes, well, I mean, I know what I'm going to do. I don't want it to go wrong. But a lot of people don't like to think about that because I don't want it to happen. But like,
so in our case, we can take like falling in the water as like something going wrong. And people are like, I really don't want that to happen. It's kind of
like the ultimate for y'all.
Yeah, okay. Because if you think about it, it's like another reason that the sport is, I think, a little more stale to me than it would be if it was like, say, we had more seasons in the years. It's once a year. Like you train the entire year pretty much. I mean, take time off obviously in the summer, but you only get to like do the performance, like the big stage once a year. And sometimes there's exceptions, right? Like I could have competed in France if I didn't hurt my shoulder, and there's like local little competitions, but nothing's like the real stage, the real show. It just doesn't compare to that. But so for me, actually, what you were saying is right. Once like I've thought about like when I compete, I think about like, okay, worst case, like I eat it on the first obstacle and that's literally it. And then after that, like who cares? You know what I mean? Like it would suck. I wouldn't like it, but it's not gonna be the end of the world. Like I'm still gonna come home, still gonna have, you know, like all the things that I'm grateful for. And
you're literally programming your brain that you have control over how you respond. It doesn't mean you want to fall.
Yeah,
you're just sitting there going, okay, I've answered worst case scenario, because the brain loves to distort our thoughts, right? It loves to go worst case scenario and tell us all the things that'll go wrong and why we're going to die. Yeah. So if you're just going, well, here's what's going to happen. It's like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah. So like actually, but I feel like that could be a dangerous road to go down, because that's it's very easy to slip into overthinking when you start thinking that way, no?
Yeah, I think, but you're strategically planning what the overthinking is going to be. Like, here's my plan, here's my response to this so that I don't react with emotion.
So being more intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
I'm not telling you it's easy. If it's easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
Right? And we would all be crazy mentally tough. Very few people are.
Yeah. I think that's a beauty though, Ninja. It's once a year. You train all year. It's like the Olympics every 4 years. I mean, there's competitions in between. There's competitions in between those 4 years, and there's competitions in between this 1 year Ninja where you get to compete against the other ninjas, see where their skills are at, and like you're ready for the big day. And like the Olympics, you gotta wait 4 years to get onto that. And like people train their whole lives, they don't even make it.
So, okay, so I'll say this, because I think this is just like a really powerful thing since we just had the Olympics. People go, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel pressure, because Ninja's only once a year, right? So like, oh God, all this builds up and I got to have it all right for just that one day or that 1 30-second shot I got, right?
Yeah.
And then people talk about pressure like a bad thing. So then they're just like, oh, I don't want to feel that pressure, which I mean, like, that's legit. Nobody wants to feel that way. However, you have pressure to be on that stage, or you have pressure to go to the Olympics. Is that like the most badass thing you get to do ever in your whole life?
Pressure
like,
makes diamonds.
Right? And like, pressure is a privilege. Pressure is an honor. Pressure is this like challenge thing. And if you look at pressure as like, I want to compete at that level instead of this all the time, which takes its luster away. I want pressure.
Yeah, it's opportunity as well. Like it has to.
The guy never feels pressure that sits in the dugout.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he never feels stressed about how it's going to do. He ain't going to play.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like that level, I don't know. I think you've got to kind of decide how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
How you want to label it. Pressure is awesome. Yeah. Just like nerves are awesome.
So
right?
I want to walk you
nerves
through
mean
like,
you care.
so I remember like we competed in Tacoma this year, Seattle. So I want to walk you through like the day for that with me was, so I like, and it depends year on year, but I like every year pretty much like that. I like wake up the day of competing and I usually sleep pretty well, but the entire day like sucks. Like I'm just like, I feel the pressure. I'm anxious. Like I can't eat. I can't like do things. I'm just like sitting there and like going through prep stuff, working like I'll do mobility stuff. I'll go running, clear my head. But like still that day, the day of competition is usually very similar like that. But like, and that comes like, it gets worse and better throughout the day. But when you actually get onto the stage and you actually start, it like all goes away. Like it's crazy how it works. But like once I think it's the worst is the morning when I wake up, but then like throughout the day it kind of goes away. And then when I'm like in the environment, there's other people, it kind of slowly dies out, but it's still there in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. But like, I remember this year when I competed, even though I only did 3 obstacles before I like ate shit, I like, after that happened, like I felt more like angry and frustrated because of how good I felt and hungry I felt to go do more obstacles. Like I was instantly like, I went to one of the guys who's in charge of testing. And I was just like, hey, like I want to come test tomorrow. And he's like, sorry, we can't do that right now because COVID stuff and other things. But I remember like that, and that's usually how it goes, right? You kind of feel up until that point, but there's like what happens in your brain at that moment of when like they say go and then you take your first step. Cause I feel like for me, like
how you're like relaxed instantly.
Yeah, I'm
kind
just
of
like
okay.
It's almost like euphoric. Like you feel like you just feel on cloud 9. And I imagine some people maybe don't get that and they stay in the nervous area, and that's probably why they don't do so well. But that's always a phenomenon that I've gone through of like consistently. So I'm curious to what the science or what happens there.
So usually like people, when the nerves like accumulate like that, like it's all before. And then as soon as you start, most people, and you're right, it's not for everybody, but for most people, they are capable because it's like they're doing what they do all day long. They're doing what they do routinely, right? Yeah. You already told me you overtrain. I mean, I don't know all the time, but you know what I'm saying? Like you do it all the time.
Yeah.
So you go into like, well, I know how to do this. I'm used to this. And what you don't know how to do very well, because nobody usually trains this like mental aspect. I shouldn't say nobody. I just say enough people don't. How about that? Yeah. But you do the obstacle courses all the time. So as soon as you start, you feel good. The part that you don't practice all the time is the, oh crap, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh parts.
Yeah.
And you only, remember he told me you only do that once a year?
Yeah, it's true.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, because you're not used to that. You haven't practiced that.
Yeah. Wow.
So like a lot of times I'll tell people, and this is going to sound crazy, but like you're practicing something at that feeling of nervousness. Right. And so replicate being nervous, and it might have to be something else because you can't like simulate maybe that exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So that you know what it feels to be like that. And then you know how to recover from that. So you're not feeling that feeling at that intensity level once a year.
Yeah, fair. And actually like so what we used to do, like when there were multiple cities, is like you could go to the other regions before your region.
Yeah,
so you
can
be in that environment and you can be like, soak it all in, and then you get comfortable in that environment so that when you're there and you're actually competing the past like couple months, like you've been in that environment, you know what it's going to feel like. So when I actually would do that, I would like pretend, like tell myself that I am competing there just to make myself feel what I would feel like. And it's almost like getting in an ice bath, like slowly. You're like dipping your toe in it first and you're like, ooh, that's kind of how that feels. So I'm not getting like a rush of all those feelings when I go to my first region for the first time, right?
Yeah, and like preparation is so powerful.
Yeah.
But most people don't like it because it takes extra work and it takes extra time. Yeah, I don't have time for that. Oh, okay. Well, did you want to be good?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How you spend your time training can't only obviously be physical. How you spend your time training is the entire enchilada.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Wow.
That's good. I'm curious to see as like a, I guess, could we call you like a like mental health care worker or no? Would that be correct in essence? Or coach, a worker?
I like mental performance coach. I like mental skills trainer, mental skills coach.
As somebody who understands like the psyche and the mental a lot, what does your like morning routine look like?
okay, so I'm just gonna back up for just a second. The mental health, I feel like I just went like right around it.
Yeah.
I think people just, it's such a, they don't like mental health because mental health means something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So I just try to stay away from it. It's not like I'm not like trained in that and I don't know it. It's just, unfortunately, the way people view it is just really negative connotation. Yeah. So I'm just all like, no, I don't do mental health.
Don't you think it's...
I'm not a therapist. I'm going to help you perform better. And then all of a sudden it's like more attractive to people. You know what I mean? It's not that you can't call it. It's just...
Yeah. Do you think
people
it's
don't
more
like
important to like work around that stigma or to just like avoid it? Like,
I think you got to tell people what it's really like because people make assumptions.
Yeah.
And like we love to make assumptions as humans and we really suck at it.
Yeah, fair.
So just kind of being like, hey, what can I learn or what do I not know? But people just, I mean, it's just like stereotyping, right?
Yeah,
I know
fair.
what this person's like. Have you ever spoken to them? No, but I know.
Yeah. And people are so quick to, want to work out their physical muscles, but we don't realize we take for granted the most powerful muscle that we have.
For sure.
Like
and like
our
endurance
mind.
athletes, like you've got to do the nutrition aspect.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. That's such a huge piece.
But you can. You won't get very far, though.
It's true. So
fair.
just, I think you just have to look at all components is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you originally asked me.
The morning.
I didn't mean to like skate around
No,
it.
you're good. I think it was good to address that. I'm curious what your morning routine looks like because for me, I've realized that the tone I set for the start of my day kind of dictates how my day goes.
Oh, for sure. I actually should make my bed in the morning because there's lots of research
You don't make
studies
your
that
bed?
say
No.
I know.
No,
It's supposed to be so good for you to like
That
productively
makes me feel
plan.
so much better.
I make my bed like every day now. I've been doing
so
it for
much
like,
work.
You know what, kid? That
It
says a lot
really
about
isn't
you.
though. I like.
What did you say?
I said that says a lot about you, kid.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just not my jam. I don't
So
look
your
down
bed's
upon
like, your
people
bed's
that
like
do
never
it.
made.
When I have people over,
Oh no.
I have dogs.
We just connected in a whole new way.
Okay, so what else
Okay,
does it
morning
look like?
routine. I do find that I have to work out before I go to work.
Okay.
Right. And I have to do it early because people blow up my phone all day long. So if I don't work out at 5 a.m., it's not happening.
Wow.
It's like my peace time.
Yeah.
You know,
The calm before the storm.
for sure. And it's, I mean, I don't always do it. Sometimes I do it later and whatever, but I have to do it before I like open the can of worms of work. Right. Because you'll think, oh, I'm going to plan for it. And then it's like something else comes up and something else happens. And I wish I could be one of those people that didn't care about other people. But okay, I'll help you. Oh, okay, I'll stay a little later. Oh, okay, fine, I'll
caught
fit
up
you
in the
in.
moment.
And then you don't make time for yourself.
Yeah.
And people, I think in our society too, think that's like super selfish. But it's not. Like, how are you going to be good at anything you do if you're not good to you?
No, for sure.
So no, I think routine is good. I think activity, exercise. I think planning the day before you go do it because you're intentional.
Not
Like
just
it-
flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I should probably get that done today. No, like this is what I'm doing. I'm a post-it freak show.
Yeah.
I love
Oh, post-it notes?
this is my
What?
pink and this is my orange and this is my yellow and they have different coded things of what I want to do for the day.
Wow. Do you like stick them around
They're
different
on my
places
laptop.
to remind yourself?
They're on windows. They're on cabinets.
Wow. What do the colors represent to you? I mean, you don't have to go into super detail, but
So like workout stuff, like, hey, this is the workouts that I need to accomplish today,
okay.
right? Or like,
multiple workouts?
yeah, I'm doing Ironman, dude.
That's fair. That's fair.
She just
They're
jogs
not
like an
just
hour
one
a
a
day.
It's like jog here, jog there, bike here,
Yeah.
swim there.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Or because or like strength. Okay, I got to do this and I got to do cardio or something like that. And then there'll be like these are the people I need to respond to today. These are the people that have to be responded to by the end of the week. That kind of thing. And then there'll be like these are my appointments. So the people that I'm actually meeting with that day and like who I want to prep.
When do you take the time to write these notes? Like, is it something you do at night before the next day? Is it something you try to do?
Actually,
at the
usually do
beginning
them
of
that
each
morning.
week?
I do them
Really?
like good ones the beginning of the week because that's like good planning.
Yes.
But like life happens.
Yeah. No, that's
So,
true. Life happens.
That morning when I'm like organizing my thoughts. Because here's the thing too about the brain, super random, but we think we can remember stuff. We suck at that.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, I got
I
all
walk
these
into the room.
thoughts.
What did I walk in here for?
I know,
Dang it.
right?
Oh.
You're
You
not
train
even
that?
old.
Can you like get better at that through training, or is that something that you kind of have or don't?
Yeah, I think yes, you can get better at anything. I mean, everything's trainable, but it's
Yeah.
like, I think a lot of people, it takes a commitment to do it, right?
Yeah, fair.
But no, so when we have these thoughts that float around, they become the prefrontal cortex part of your brain is the part that makes decisions. Okay. And that actually becomes like clouded and muddled. And it makes it very hard to be like, well, what did I want to do? Or why did I want to do that? Or what was the importance of that? Or why am I even doing this? That kind of thing. And then if I write the things down, you get more clarity. So I really do it for that. Like, how much am I really committed to this? Why am I doing this again?
So do you, I mean, to like clear that like brain fog stuff, do you ever like meditate or do certain things like that?
Yeah, I should. I mean, I'm a super believer in it. I do not make time for it.
Yeah,
but that's just me being totally transparent.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Something's got to give in your life at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all these things I don't want to do. I always tell my husband, I'm like, man, if I didn't have to work, I would like be really good at a lot of things. He's like, you don't have to work.
You've become really good at your work, though.
Also true. Yeah, and that's
so
what
it's
he
like
reminds
ebbs
me.
and flows of life.
He goes, Ash, you do own your own practice. You can do whatever you want. I go, oh, yeah, but it has to be good.
It has to be good. Yeah.
So there's other, like something's always got to give.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And even just like recognizing the different seasons in life. Like I'm in a season of committing this much time, energy, and effort into these goals. And then, okay, I might still have passions and desires for these things athletically or hobbies or whatever. But now I'm in a season where this is taking kind of front and center. And, this
I totally love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Because I think people are afraid to like go back and forth because that means I don't care about that. No, like you're just, things change and you adapt. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, it's good.
good deal.
Any more questions? You got any questions for us?
Oh, yeah. We're here for it.
I asked you guys how you felt about the stalling of competition.
That was rough, but we got through it.
How about how when you guys, I guess personally, right? Because you guys are at a high level and not a lot of high level athletes own what they do. And I think, and when I say own what they do, they don't like share their secrets kind of thing, right? Like it's one of those things where people are like, well, I don't want my competition to know. Or I see that a lot.
Yeah.
But so like, is there something that you guys have done that's worked for you that you feel like either helps you be calm or helps you be more competitive or helps you be more hyped or helps like, people always think you have to be calmer, but a lot of people don't necessarily need that. They need to be more like pumped, amped, right? Like it just depends on what you're doing. Is there something you guys have found that like works for you that's helps you, I'll just say compete better, right? And competing does not have to be actual competition. It could be like competing a workout.
Yeah.
Completing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, and I've talked about it before, but I got this from like some of the top guys. Like I didn't think about it on my own, but I got it from like top athletes all over the place that I was researching on. And even other ninjas were telling me about it that were very good before my time. But I'll run through a course like visually in my head like 50 times before I actually run it.
And you have to. And there's so much research behind that.
Just the visualization training.
Yeah, I remember I think the first time I did it was in LA for Ninja versus Ninja. But I'll lay down, put like these actual headphones on or anything that's like noise canceling so nobody bothers me. I'll close my eyes, put on like either classical music or reggae usually.
Whoa.
And I'll run through the course like 50 times. Like in like very specifically, like I'll think about like the five senses, right? So what is this going to feel like? What is this going to look like? Like, is there going to be a certain smell? Am I going to like taste anything? All these different things.
Cotton
Because
candy.
that makes it more real for yourself. And yeah, that's I think one of like, it's not really secret because again, I've talked about it before, but I think that's one of the reasons I've done well.
So I'll tell you something that I think you touched on. I don't think, and a lot of people don't realize that that's like, they may think it's like your thing, but it's actually a proven thing. A lot of people don't use all your senses. And if you don't use all your senses, your brain will not associate it as real, but the brain actually doesn't know the difference between real or imagined.
Yeah.
And so when you engage all your senses, it actually activates that vivid image and it thinks it's happening, right?
So when I'm doing it, I like feel like I've already done it.
Huge. All your senses. And then you also said you do the detail, like hard parts.
Yeah.
A lot of people mess up and they only see themselves doing it kind of like, like a video camera type
They're like
thing.
watching themselves. Yeah.
Or they only see the end, like accomplishing it.
Yeah, hit that buzzer.
That's the easy part, dude. You're done.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you got to do the hard part when you're like, oh, I can't hold on any longer. I want to die. You know what I mean? And people, because they're afraid to do that because I don't want to feel like that. That's a horrible feeling. But if you haven't practiced it, how can you prepare for it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Right.
And that's one of the things about the current format for Ninja is what you see on TV is the very first time that we're touching any of those obstacles. Usually 9 times out of 10, we show up to competition having zero information on what obstacles we're going to run. When we get there, they'll give us a walkthrough and say, okay, here's obstacle number 1. Here's the rules, the do's, the don'ts, any questions. Okay, here's one demonstration of one of the usually many methods of getting from the beginning to the end of this obstacle.
Do they show you that? Or does somebody actually show you
demo,
that?
yeah.
Somebody
But
shows.
they usually do it in like the most standardized way because there's usually a lot of ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's usually
And they
2
do
or
it,
3
like,
different ways.
They make
easily.
it look harder sometimes than
But it's
it
not
is.
like a video. Someone physically shows
yeah,
you.
Correct.
You're
Okay.
standing right
physically
next
in
to it, yeah.
person.
Okay.
And so they'll walk us individually. Then they'll have someone else do the next obstacle. So you don't get to see a streamless run of someone running the course. You just get it bit by bit, piece by piece. And so we're in our minds, kind of trying to string that all together. And then once they get to the last one, they say, okay, now we're heading back to holding area. The next time you see this course is going to be when you're standing on the starting line about to run it. And so, of course, we know there's going to be like a striding obstacle that you run across. We know there's going to be a warped wall that you run up. We know there's going to be like a salmon ladder where you jump the bar up the rungs. But all the other obstacles in between, half the time, it seems like more and more nowadays, there are brand new, never before seen, never before done obstacles. And so we're sitting there in the back just waiting for our turn, trying to, from a distance or from our vantage point, watch as many other obstacle courses being run from other competitors and learning and adapting. And as we're visualizing, our own course, I mean, we get to the, so great a detail where it's like, okay, how many steps do I need to take before I get there? Which hand needs to grab first? Which hand needs to be higher? What is the texture going to feel like? What is my hip placement going to be in order to make that 4-foot jump, 5 foot? Is it a 6-foot jump? And then that's where adaptability really plays a key role in like obstacle course racing, which is unlike any other sport. Because I remember growing up playing like baseball, basketball, soccer. I mean, I practiced my jump shot like a million times. I never got great at it.
But how is your jump shot?
I was going to say, I never got great at it, but I remember just like you practice that motion. But then on these courses, you practice like spatial awareness. You practice, how your own body moves. You begin to understand, how great of a challenge of endurance and strength you can take before you start to pump out. And you don't want that to happen.
Phrase, pump out.
Yeah, before you don't want that to happen as you're, mid course. You kind of want to know what you're capable of, which is where a lot of the conditioning comes in. But it's the mental game, the visualization plays a huge role. And for me,
and it's taxing and it's long and it's extra work. So people are just like, or they do it a couple times.
But you can either be doing that or freaking out. You know what I mean?
For sure. But most people, I would just say like, don't do it enough.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like both of you guys like do a really good job of like doing it 900 times. And that's literally the key.
Because the thing is like, you're not going to know the specific course, but honestly, I don't think that matters. You just like, I'll make up courses in my mind of what it could be, and then I'll just run that.
Ooh, fancy pants.
But at the time of like the course, when you're doing it, that's at the point of like my body's done it like a bajillion times. Everything's somewhat similar. So even if it's not exactly what I've been like visualizing, like
you can make those small.
Yeah, I still feel like I've been in the situation, and that's more for the mental stuff. When it comes to the physical stuff, like I just need to know what I'm doing, and like there's no way that I can, because there's no way that like. Even if you take like soccer, for example, there's no way an athlete can visualize exactly where he's going to be when he's going to be like shooting a shot or doing certain things like that. So you just have to more visualize what potentially could be happening and hope for the best, right?
Yeah. No, it's huge. Huge.
Yep. And I spend a lot of time with family leading up to competitions, and that helps me decompress a lot of any stress or anxiety that I have for competitions.
Well, because they're your purpose. And
exactly.
if you're around your purpose, like
they keep me vision focused and like, purpose centered for why I'm there. So that helps tremendously because oftentimes, I mean, especially the last 2 years, I've traveled with all the COVID restrictions by myself. I've gone to these competitions this last season. All of those episodes, all those competitions was just me flying by myself, being in my hotel by myself. And I was just like, this is not as fun. I'm not in the same type of headspace as I normally am. And I can still get through it, but there's something about, having a constant reminder of, why you're there, your purpose for being there, the goals that you have, and then to have someone give me healthy, realistic affirmations. Like my wife will be like, you can do this. If something goes wrong, that's fine. Get up, show people what it looks like to fall and get back up quickly. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
And here's the key to that. Like, it's not like you don't know that, but you forget because you become dumb in the moment. You become absorbed with emotion, and she brings reality back, and you go, "Oh yeah, thanks."
Yep.
Like people don't actually plug in people to be those people for them. Like, I mean, not everybody has that, right?
Yeah.
But you better find your people.
Yeah.
Or you better learn how to be your biggest fan.
Whether it's your coach, whether it's, just fellow athletes.
Because you're going to distort and tell you why you aren't capable, and someone else is going to be like, "Hey, dude, but you are."
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. There's always like those like people around usually, and like they come
and
like
it's just a very positive sport too.
We talked about that when you were gone. But yeah, the community is very like uplifting and positive for the most part. So it's always a good time.
So we all have obstacles to overcome, whether they're physical, mental, emotional. Like we all face obstacles, but we can
I
overcome.
think that's why people like watching it though.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
and the fact that it's run in the summer when people are like they're having more time to do stuff, or like there's like kind of a pause in this like just crazy structure of life, right? Or like just routine. And then I think that's why people connect. I think is they just go, oh man, I love to see somebody do something like that, overcome something that's not predictable.
Yep.
Yeah, fair.
Or you guys. I mean, you're probably not really now, but you were once regular people, right?
But like, I still put my pants on one leg at a time.
I know, but people
all right?
forget that. And like you watch like any other type of pro sport, and people forget that they had to get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they think of you as, but that person's kind of like me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
And people love that.
No, that's true. It's true.
Cool. I think we're gonna wrap up here. This has been an hour
Thank
and a
you
half.
so
episode.
much for your
It's been pretty
time.
good.
This has
Of course.
been awesome,
Thanks for
actually.
having me. Love it.
Real quick, if you guys haven't checked out the Patreon, that's probably we're gonna post the full episode, the video episode. This one should look a lot better than the other one since we
should.
got a lot of the more of the camera stuff figured out.
But we'll see.
We'll probably post clips on the Instagram page. That's at Kinda Nice Show. If you want to plug yourself one more time.
Yeah, let us know where we can find you,
where
where people can follow you, and keep up to date with whatever resources that you're coming out with.
Sure. I appreciate that. MaximizeTheMind.com. That's everything on there. All the social media is on there because all my handles are different.
Nice.
Okay, so
But
just go to MaximizeTheMind.com
MaximizeTheMind.com's got everything.
and have the links to like
And-
Instagram, the links to anywhere else.
Yeah. And I do a lot of one-on-one work. I mean, obviously that's what most of my day looks like, but because I am so busy, I'm doing more workshops and more team talks and seminars and things like that to hopefully help more people and not just have it where it's just all one-on-one. And then I'm doing some online coursework that is in the making right now.
Oh,
Wow.
So Mental Performance Playbook is coming out.
Hey, that sounds awesome.
I gotta like pause so I can have time to work on it. But yeah, because I think like not everyone obviously has access to this. Not everyone has time and not everyone can afford it. So it's gotta be this, how can I remove me personally from the element and make it more self-paced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want people to learn it. Like we want the exposure, but obviously I'm only one person.
I think most people can they obviously one-on-one is great and you probably get results faster, but I think most people can learn the stuff on their own or with a program like yours and kind
Yeah,
of
just having the resource.
yeah,
Sure.
like once you give them the tools necessary, then it's just applying them, right? And it's really helpful to have somebody there to walk you through it. But for the most part, I think something like that could be like an easier way for you to impact a lot more people.
Especially in
than
the days that we're
one-on-one.
living in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, obviously, when I work with someone in my office, it's super personal. I don't want to be generic. I want to make sure I got the backstory. I got the background. That's so powerful to me.
Yeah.
And you want to connect to them. But yeah, not everybody's going to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, I mean, let's be real. Anybody that deals with anxiety or anybody deals with overthinking, which we all do at
I
some
was gonna
capacity.
say, how many of us can raise our hand for that?
There's certain things that I teach that almost everybody could be better at and know. So yeah, that's how I kind of want to pass it on.
Good. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Last time, if you want to check out the Patreon and this full episode, that's patreon.com/kinda nice. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for being with us. Goodbye.
Bye.
I'm kinda nice with the gear. Shout out my area.